London in the 1600s was already one of the largest cities in Europe. Nearly 500,000 people lived there. It was a busy and fast-growing city. Trade was strong. Life moved along the river every day. The River Thames shaped how the city worked and how people lived. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring old paintings and engravings to life. These tools let us change our point of view. They allow the camera to move through the scene in ways the artists of that time could never do. First, I want to talk about a place we now call Old London Bridge. Before this project, I did not know much about it myself. In the 1600s, Old London Bridge was not just a bridge. It was a street built across the river. It connected the heart of London with the area of Southwark. Houses, shops, storehouses, chapels, and gate towers stood close together on the bridge. From far away, it looked less like a bridge and more like a small town floating on the water. The bridge rested on many narrow stone arches. These arches stood on huge stone pillars. Because of this, the river's flow became very tight and fast. Strong currents formed, making it dangerous for boats to pass through. Boats trying to move between the arches often faced powerful waves. Accidents were common. The buildings on the bridge were several stories high. Many of them leaned out over the road below. People lived directly above the noise of carts and crowds. Fire was always a serious danger. Crowding could not be avoided. Yet people continued to live and work here for generations. To cross Old London Bridge was more than crossing a trade route. It meant passing under clear signs of power and control. Below, the River Thames served as London's main highway. Barges, ferries, merchant ships, and small boats filled the water. They carried grain, wood, coal, cloth, and goods from faraway lands. The river connected London to the English countryside, to Europe, and to the wider Atlantic world. Because of this, the bridge became a meeting point between local life and global trade. In very cold winters, the narrow arches slowed the river so much that the Thames could freeze. During these rare times, people walked and gathered on the ice beneath the bridge. It was a peaceful and surprising sight, very different from the danger the river usually held. This view shows the northern entrance of the bridge. On the left, you can see the area near St. Magnus the Martyr. By the middle of the 18th century, the bridge was in poor condition. City officials decided it needed major changes. Between 1756 and 1762, the buildings that had stood on Old London Bridge for centuries were slowly removed. Although this painting was made in the 1700s, it shows a place that shaped London for hundreds of years. It is amazing to think that this is a place you can still visit today. What made Old London Bridge special was not only its engineering, but also how long it survived as a living space. It was many things at the same time. It was infrastructure, it was a market, it was a neighborhood, and it was a symbol. Kings and common people crossed here. Merchants and workers earned their living on the bridge. For many newcomers, this narrow crossing was their very first view of London. The bridge was often crowded, dark, and dirty. It slowed traffic and blocked trade. Life on the bridge was risky for those who lived and worked there. Still, for centuries, it could not be replaced. Until the 18th century, it was the only permanent crossing of the River Thames in central London. Because of this, almost all movement between the north and south of the city had to pass through this one point. Sometimes I wish I could travel back in time and experience this place as it once was, even for just one day. Today, I believe this AI reconstruction is the closest I can come to that dream. This is Buckingham House in the late 17th and early 18th century. Long before it became Buckingham Palace, it was built as a private home. At that time, it stood on the western edge of London. It was far from the crowded city centre, surrounded by open land and gardens. This area marked the boundary between the city and the countryside beyond. It was a reminder that even as London grew more crowded, its limits could still be clearly felt. In September 1666, London suffered one of the most destructive fires in its history. It began as a small fire, but the city was built mostly of wood. The streets were narrow. Buildings stood very close together. The flames spread quickly and became impossible to stop. The first image shows Ludgate surrounded by fire. In the distance, old St. Paul's Cathedral can be seen. Its square tower was under threat. Soon, this great symbol would burn as well. The second view looks out over the River Thames near Tower Wharf on the evening of September 4th. London appears as a continuous wall of fire. On the left is London Bridge. On the right, the Tower of London narrowly escapes destruction. Old St. Paul's burns at the center of the skyline. In just a few days, most of medieval London was reduced to ashes. Yet the fire marked a turning point. It cleared away centuries of dense building. It forced the city to rebuild, reshape itself, and begin again. Standing beside the river, the Tower of London in the 1600s was at the center of royal power. At this time, it served many roles. It was a fortress, an armory, a treasury, and one of England's most feared prisons. High-ranking prisoners accused of treason were held within these walls. The tower also stored royal records, weapons, and even the crown jewels. Because of this, it was not only a place of punishment, but a foundation of the English state itself. This scene shows Cheapside in the year 1638. Cheapside was one of the most important ceremonial streets in London. On this day, Marie de Medici entered the city. She came to visit her daughter, Henrietta Maria, and her son-in-law, Charles I. Cheapside was not only a place of trade, it was also a stage for royal display. Water fountains, stone crosses, and temporary structures were built here for public events. At the center stands Cheapside Cross, a well-known landmark and meeting place. Soldiers, officials, and large crowds filled the street. The scene looks bright and impressive. But moments like this also reflect growing political and religious tension. Henrietta Maria was Catholic and foreign-born. This troubled many people in London. At the same time, the city was slowly moving towards civil war. Today, this area still exists as modern Cheapside, near St. Mary-le-Bow. The street remains, even though many medieval landmarks are gone. This image shows Westminster in the year 1647, seen from across the River Thames. England was deeply divided at this time. On the left is the old Palace of Westminster. This was the home of Parliament and the center of political power. By the mid-17th century, it had become the focus of conflict between the king and Parliament, especially during the English Civil War. Next to it stands Westminster Hall. It is one of the oldest and most magnificent parts of the palace. It was used for courts, state trials, and large public gatherings. Its great roof once symbolized royal authority. Later, it became a place where that authority was openly challenged. On the right stands Westminster Abbey. For centuries, this has been the spiritual heart of the nation. Kings and queens were crowned here. Royal funerals were held here. Many rulers were buried here. In 1647, The abbey stood between tradition and change as religious divisions reshaped England. At the center of the scene are Westminster Stairs. This was a busy river landing. People arrived and left by boat. Before bridges and paved roads became common, the River Thames was London's main route of travel. Politicians, clergy, messengers, and ordinary people all came by water, arriving at the doorstep of power. This engraving shows Whitehall Palace in 1643. At that time, it was the largest royal residence in England and the main home of the king. From the river steps, kings and courtiers arrived by boat. This confirmed the Thames as the main road of power in Stuart London. Stretching along the river, Whitehall was not a single palace. It was a vast complex of halls, bedrooms, and government buildings. This was where royal government worked, at the very heart of the kingdom. Most of Whitehall Palace was destroyed by fire in the late 17th century. Today, only the banqueting house remains. It still stands as the last survivor of what was once the center of royal life in England. This is Richmond Palace in the 16th and early 17th century. It was one of the most important royal homes outside central London. Originally rebuilt by Henry VIII on the site of a medieval palace, Richmond became a favorite retreat for Tudor and early Stuart kings and queens. The air here was cleaner. The surroundings were quieter. It felt far away from the crowded city. It was here that Elizabeth I spent her final days. She died at Richmond Palace in 1603. Her death marked the end of the Tudor dynasty. Over time, the palace fell out of use. Slowly, it was taken apart. Today, its grounds are part of modern Richmond. Only small traces remain, parts of old walls. Hints of the palace layout, hidden beneath streets and riverside paths. Standing here, looking back at these moments, it is hard not to feel how close the past really is. These streets, these buildings, these events, they shaped the world we live in today. Through these reconstructions, we are given a brief glimpse of what it truly felt like to be there. If there is another city, another time, or another moment in history you would like to see brought back to life, please let me know in the comments. I would love to continue this journey into the past with you. Once again, thank you very much for watching.